Welcome to another episode of Speaking with the Senator. I'm Senator Kevin Avard, your host. And today we're going to be talking about a topic which is concerning for a number of people, and it has been for the last few years. And it has to do with border security. And you know what you're hearing in the news and what you're seeing, sometimes you may want to know what's really going on. And so what I've done is I've talked to a number of individuals about this, and today we've talked to a certain constituent who lives here in Hollis, and he and his brother have been taking the time to check out what's really going on. Former Marine, and my guest, Mike Werner. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you, Senator.
Thanks for coming on the show.
I appreciate it.
It really is a topic that seems to be concerning for a lot of people. You know, we saw under the past few administrations where people are just coming up in from the southern border, and then we saw them coming in on trains, and then we just seen them coming in as an army marching and demanding to come in.
Right.
And then we hear reports where the president, his administration, says, cut the wires, let them in.
Right.
And when there were any type of areas where they wanted to protect, he said no. And they're coming in droves. And one of the things that's really concerning to a lot of people, they were concerned about, how the governor's shipping them up to New York, but the administration's doing the very same thing. And then had the nerve to sue the governor, both in Texas and in Florida. So there's a shell game going on, and there's a lot of information out there, a lot of misinformation, maybe too much. But people are concerned because the individuals are taking up space and costing the taxpayers a lot of money. Whether it's in New York, where they've got tent cities now, they're going to be using up their medical facilities, their schools. They get a stipend of what, $2,200 a month, and if you're on Social Security, you get what, $1,400 a month.
I believe it.
And so, a lot of people are worried what's going on, and when does the hemorrhaging stop? Is it really happening? And you're a former Marine. You served in the Middle East.
Yes, I was on a Marine Expeditionary Unit to the Gulf of Oman and the Gulf of Aden, which is right off of Oman near Saudi Arabia and Ethiopia. And then in my second deployment, I was in Camp Bastion, Afghanistan, and that was 2012. Both deployments, the first one was 2010, and then the second one was 2012.
Well, first of all, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
We really do appreciate that. And I said all that in the beginning because, we're seeing a lot of individuals that are called immigrants. Some call them illegal aliens. But one of the things that's really concerning for a lot of people, Iran, stopped a warship parked in Brazil. Mm-hmm. So some people are concerned, well, who's coming through the border? Is it just people that want a better way of life, or do we have some individuals that want to do us harm? Is that possible? And so when we talked, you said that you and your brother have done a number of surveillances down on the southern border. What was that like?
Yeah, so in August, myself and my brother, and with this company called Tracker Surveillance Systems, we went down and embarked on a month. It was almost a month. It was like 22 or 23 days. But the point is the whole goal was to go down for ourselves with the opportunity we were given. And there's reporters who are on the border down there. One of their reporters is called Anthony Aguero. And he's from the border towns in El Paso, but he knows everyone, and he's eat, slept, and lived doing the reporting of what's been going on. So we kind of attached with him with this vehicle that Tracker provided as a demo. And it has night vision capabilities, surveillance, it can power everything. It's like a control center, and it's mobile. So we started off in Boca Chica at SpaceX, and we made our way all the way to El Paso. And we stopped in different Eagle Pass, a place called Roma, Texas. And then we, as we hit border towns and got footage, we processed all the way forward. And what we saw was, it's an assembly line for people coming, and this is just as a observational point of view. It's not, it's not my opinion. We saw all these people come in as they approach the border towns, in any one of the towns, it's the same thing. The border checkpoints were international boundaries, and then outside of that, you'd have multiple like municipalities, and they'd extend out. Well, along the riverbanks of the Rio Grande, Border Patrol had set up stations that had field lighting almost with generators, surveillance equipment. They'd have aerostat blimps in the air, and those are big blimps that, like the Goodyear blimp. They have cameras, thermal systems, imagery, has everything you could think of. And they have them over the entire area, so when they see caravans or people approaching, they can radio down and send a drone up, and Border Patrol then from the station locally can be deployed and find those people where they're going to make their entry.
To stop them from coming in?
No, unfortunately not. Not this time.
Right.
And like you said, the Border Patrol, it's not really their fault. I mean, you could say it's their fault, but when you're in a uniform position and you're in that kind of structure, you take orders. Whether you could argue it's good or bad, or I would do it or I wouldn't do it, that's not the case. The case is that they're being told this is what you're doing today, and they oblige. So. But what they do is they find the people coming across the border through the river, which is about chest high usually. And so as they come up, they walk about a mile and they find these lights on. The Border Patrol kind of makes a line with their trucks, with their headlights on as like a pathway, and it lights them to this staging area. And as they get to the staging area, that's where they get processed. They get all their belongings taken from them to search, and they get their shoes cut. Then they go through their process of being photographed and documentation so that they can start their process. And it's troubling because we were down there watching all of this as it unfolded each night. And, it's a mixture of people coming. And while some people in there in the group say, oh yes, we're here to have a better life, there are also people who don't talk. They don't want to be recognized. There's Chinese. There's, you can talk to them and they'll tell you, yeah, I'm from China, I'm from Turkey, I'm from Iran, I'm from Mauritania, like in Africa, Guinea. There's a huge number in terms of where they're coming from, and not all of them are going to tell you why they're coming. They're all going to have, America, I want to come. This is where I'm going to go, New York City. But they have no intention of telling you what they're doing there because they can't communicate. So that to me, that says, well, if there's a probability or a possibility that half those people have bad intentions, let's just play that hypothetical game. That means that we might, as a civilian population, not know what's going to happen when they get here, but there's a percentage still that when they get out there, something is going to happen. So then in my mind, as I saw all these things happen as a procession, I keep reading news about, there's a factory blown up or on fire or infrastructure damaged or rail line derailed. And it's been ongoing for the past year almost. And the correlation between how many people are coming in, illegally or not, there's the correlation of infrastructure being attacked. Attacked, that's one word of saying it. That's what I would say, because it's not normal to see that.
In such cataclysmic way, if you will.
Right.
And so some of the observation, you showed me a couple of pictures, where kids they were on individuals' shoulders and perceived as though they may have been drugged or something to that effect. Right. We know that there's a huge fentanyl crisis coming through our border, and I don't know if they're catching some of that at the border, but it's still coming. It's here. It comes all the way up north. So that's a concern for a lot of people. We're seeing reports of 6 million, 8 million, 10 million. We don't know who are the gotaways, and on and on. And so we see all this at our southern border. And then all of a sudden, we see in the news where our governor says, well, we need to beef up our northern border. And lo and behold, $1 million, is being allocated or plus to our northern border. Mm-hmm. Senator Shaheen came out and said she wants to know more information about what's the stats about our border, especially up north. Who's going to come from up north? Mm. Well, you went up north.
I did.
Tell me what you heard or saw.
Yeah, so kind of bouncing off what I did on the southern border, with that many people coming in and all the children coming in, it sparked me to go, well, if it's happening here, and I know Canada is more of a friendlier known border, and I understand that it's more open. It's like, but in my brain strategically, I'm like, well, there has to be something up there with that. So we planned a trip, some good friends and myself, and we went up there just to see what it was like, see what we're doing. Because I've heard so many different things from so many people on the media and all this stuff. I like to just go and see it myself. And when we went up there, the number one thing that we saw was the lack of personnel. You know, I know it's rural, but reaction times to any incidents that happen, there's just not enough law enforcement on the ground to really have an impact to stop something that might be going on up there, which the evidence so far points to, yes, it is. So when we saw the lack of personnel and the lack of communications, because they both go hand in hand. You got to have personnel that have communication so that you can react. And it's about your reaction to intercept.
And now you showed me a map where up on the upper part of our state, and it seems as though in between roads and rivers and long spatial areas, there's mountains.
Yes.
And so if you have an incident happening in one part, the other side of the mountain can't hear it, and there aren't any towers. And it's just going to that point that you said that one of the areas is communication. And then, of course, lack of manpower.
Yes.
Personnel up there. And I actually talked with Border Security this summer. Actually, it was in the springtime. And we were discussing what's going on up there. And they said, yeah, Senator, the amount of people that are coming through our northern border has tripled in just 3 months than over the last few years. And I said, so what are they doing? Oh, they're smuggling people. They're smuggling drugs. And I was really concerned with the way he said, but the thing that's really troubling us is the armaments that are coming from our border. This is from their mouth directly to me.
Yeah, Border Patrol. Yeah.
Border Patrol. And it didn't kind of register. I'm thinking, the drugs are coming here and the illegals and whatnot. But he was really concerned about the firearms that are coming across. And I thought, from Canada? And so when you went up there, you kind of validated what I heard from them directly. But how many people are coming through? What are the numbers?
We don't actually know. I mean, we can only postulate.
Yeah.
There's just not enough data that at least I can get. If I had to put a number on it, based upon the Swanton sector, it's already, so last year it was almost 1,100 people that they caught, that they know about. Now this year it's up to 6,000 that they know about.
Jeez.
Because the got-away numbers no one really knows about.
Right.
So with what's going on in Maine with the illegal marijuana grow houses and the open border that's up there, when it comes to when you have weapons, illegal drugs, you have a black market, when you have human smuggling, that's the same three categories that are on the southern border. And the cartel operates in Canada and the United States as well, especially out of Massachusetts. Those are hard numbers I know that actually exist, but the calculus I can't explain is where and how are they coming? We know the area so far because for us this is an ongoing, we're looking into this. This is a progression. So that's a question that we're going to answer as soon as we can. And that's why I'm here trying to talk about it, because the awareness that people have to understand is, yes, this is happening. I can tell you that it's happening with evidence. I just don't know how yet. And we're going into this next year going to find out.
Right. And so people should not be, panicking over this, but at the same time, we shouldn't be dismissing it either.
Right.
Because they are coming here, and what are their intentions? We don't know. Number one, they're breaking the law.
Yep.
Right. And if they're smuggling firearms and drugs, that could be your family member that's going to be affected by it. If you've been to Manchester a couple of years back, you can look at Tent City. There's a lot of individuals that are strung out on drugs. So there's definitely some mental illness that's going on, but where you're seeing these tents pop up more and more people are succumbing to drug addiction. And fentanyl, and I guess there's other drugs that they're creating.
Xylazine is one of them. It's called xylazine with an X. It starts with an X. It's xylazine. It's a horse tranquilizer. They're cutting into the fentanyl.
And from what I hear, they're also lacing marijuana with it and other things. So, you know, we have to be aware, and you have to be aware of your surroundings, no doubt. But, you know, for the governor and for Senator Shaheen to actually come out and say, hey, you know, we need to focus on this. You know, they've never done that before.
No, you're right. Yeah.
And so that's concerning to me. And as a legislator, and I know that, you know, there's a lot of discussion about hopefully putting up some towers up there. But I think one of the issues definitely is manpower. We're short, and we need conservation officers. We need definitely some more state police, obviously, and of course more border security as to stop the hemorrhaging from right.
Yeah.
So you talked to local residences up there.
Yes, we did. We tried to as much as we could.
Yeah, yes. And you know, obviously they didn't know who you were, but when you went up there, but they were closing off roads.
Yes. So briefly, is that it's the main route that has the most encounters that are documented, meaning that there was arrests made, was Hall Stream Road, and that starts in the bottom, excuse me, in Pittsburgh, and it runs up the border between Canada or Quebec on one side and New Hampshire on the other, with a Hall Stream dividing it. And there's a portion where it's farmland and residential houses. And as you run up that road, before it gets to what's called the headwaters area, there's this farm at the very end of it. I won't name it, but at the end of that farm, or right where that farm is at the end of the road, they blocked it off with a chain link fence because of the number of traffic and incidences that they are concerned about. So as we approached it, they had a reaction to us coming up there. It's a very rural area, and I get it. So, but they explained that to us. Like, hey, look, this is really bad. We don't know who you are. We don't know what you're doing, and we've had a lot of problems lately. So that's an indicator. And then after that, it goes off into that, you know, kind of hunting state lands area. And that's where you lose reception for communications. There's no more, you know, towers or anything up there. And the response time for the local police is about an hour. So you can kind of do the math on that one. And
there's a lot of places you can hide.
Oh, it's open. I mean, it's 30 miles by 30 miles from Pittsburgh proper to the border is 30 miles, and then roughly 30 miles from Howell Stream to the border of Maine. So it's open.
Yeah, and there's no surveillance. You know, we're not using drones. We're not using helicopters. We're not using cell towers to track. And so apparently some people must know that's an easy place to go, especially if you want to bring in some sensitive things. You know?
Yeah, I agree with that. And to that point is the more research we've been doing is the visas that are being issued from foreign countries that might be considered adversaries to Canada. So people can get into Canada with these visas. And then they can hook up with the local smuggling routes. And that's an example, a framework example of what's been going on already. And it's been going on with Mexico especially. So if it works for one avenue to get in and come through, it's going to work with other visas, is my point. So that right there tells us we need to look into it further. But to the point of weapons, you know, the cartel is the one who's going to facilitate that. So they have that control. And so far we know they exist because they've already had attempts made and intercepted. So that's a portion we also know as well. So
your brother served in the Navy?
He was in the Marine Corps too.
I'm kidding you.
Yeah.
Just teasing.
Yeah.
So if you're watching, I am kidding.
Yeah.
I know. And the name of his business is
Traca Systems.
And why did he get into that?
So he did fire control, which on the Huey and Cobras, which is the Marine Light Attack Units helicopters. He did the fire control systems, the targeting systems, electronic components, and that was his bread and butter. That's what he did. So he took that into the civilian world, and that's essentially, it translates into electronic surveillance for any kind of company. You know, there's a couple companies that do it, but he works for Traca Systems, and they provide kind of security packages for surveillance and intercept capabilities to law enforcement, states, federal government, and so on. So he used it as a demo because it was an opportunity for him to demo a piece of gear and to do some good.
Right.
And so I tagged along because he asked me to come because, I mean, I'm good at stuff like this.
Right. And how long has he been doing it?
He's been doing that for altogether, got to be more than 20 years.
20 years, wow.
Yeah.
And so that's the equipment that you've been using to, so it's relatively sophisticated what you've been watching.
Yes.
So do you see any slowdown in this going on? I mean, what do we do? What?
So what
As a state, what can we do?
Well, I'll put it this way: the way I see it, and the way I've always learned is if there's, and I build stuff for a living, so it's just my version of it. When there's an issue or someone wants to change this or change that, you just go, okay, I'm going to do this. This is how I'm going to do it, and break it down step by step, figure it out. So to me, and I understand there's politics involved, but to me, where there's a will, there's a way.
Right.
So if there's a will to do this, it doesn't have to be the federal government. I think the federal government is trying to do whatever they're trying to do, and that's not on us. We have our border. We can make our own version of that. It's our right to. So if we decided to, we could go up there and take the manpower we do have, and then create a force multiplier so that there's some layered defense that we can intercept or anything or find out what's going on. And just by doing that simple act, it's going to put out a word to the whoever's doing this that this is a harder area to do it in. And that's just like a basic law enforcement tactic.
Right.
But it's also a way to stop that, have a hemorrhage.
Yeah.
Block it off for a little bit and then implement a system, layered all the way down to southern New Hampshire, have a plan.
Right.
Enact the plan and then carry it out.
And I know there's ongoing discussions about that, and law enforcement definitely has its concerns. Speaking with Senator Waters the other day about it, and I think they're on it, but a lot has come through since last few years.
Yeah.
So we want to keep an eye on it, and we want to be able to track it. We want to actually know how much is this going to be costing the taxpayers. I mean, that's one area. Is our safety compromised? I don't know. Were the guys from 9/11? Did they come from Maine?
No.
No. Did they went to Boston or something? But didn't they track through Maine or something to that effect?
My memory's hasty on that one.
So same with mine. So
But I get what you're saying, and I don't.
I mean, if they had a camp in Maine or Vermont or one of the local states, if somebody wants to do us harm, our job is to protect the citizens, and to serve them and to be aware of what's going on, and to protect their wallet.
Well, yeah, no, I understand that.
So, I might be wrong on where they came from. But a couple of them did go to Logan Airport.
Yeah.
Right, and so from wherever they hailed from there. So if people want to look into your brother's business a little bit, how would they do that? Where would they go?
Trakasystems.com, and that's spelled TRAKKA, and then systems.com.
Okay, and that'll show some of the things that they do. Now, are there any videos on there as far as our southern border?
So there are videos that are all compiled on there, and then there's also that video attached for this.
All right. Now, can the media get a hold of this at all? Or?
Yes. I believe they could. They can get in contact with Traka directly or through me, and I can get them permission.
Okay. So you definitely want to do that. We'd love to follow up with you in the future. And do you want people to contact you if they want to get involved? Or?
Oh, please, yeah. And I'd give an email. It's tip87@protonmail.com.
Great. And so on the side, I believe you're a carpenter?
Yes.
So, and you redo bathrooms and
yes.
And do you do cabinetry or what's your business?
So it's mainly tile. I do redo bathrooms, remodel bathrooms, kitchens. Not so much furniture, but I mean, when it comes to the install of them, yes. But it's mainly the remodeling of kitchen, bathrooms, and floors for interior spaces. Okay.
So if you want to hire a vet, check him out. You already got his email, right? And so it's if you want somebody that's local and that's available and who knows about serving, contact Mike Werner. We appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks, Senator.
Do you have any last comments that you want to put out there? I mean, for the people to know or about what's going on.
I mean, there is a lot of stuff that is actually going on, and it's not to be. You don't need to be hasty about it or get intimidated by it. It's very simple. It's finding the real facts in it, and sometimes it's blurred through the world we live in. At the same time, it's as easy as just doing one small thing, in your daily life to try to actually physically find out for yourself.
Right.
Because anyone can sit all day on a computer and try to find out, try to understand, but you're missing a huge part of actually being there, like as you witness something. And that's what I've learned, and that's what I'm trying to do. So the one small thing you can do kind of helps the larger problem.
Right.
That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, just be a light and salt and active in your own little corner, and that basically helps everybody else out.
Yep.
So thanks for watching Speaking with the Senator, and we're going to keep track of this, and we'll hopefully have some updates in the future. And if you have any questions about it, obviously contact Mike and look at his brother's website. And thank you for watching, and until next week, we'll see you.